It's no bullshit. It's all truth.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
It's time to get straight to the point. Here's Adam Sager.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Straight to the Point podcast, where I do a bunch of different kind of podcasts. Today, straight to the city, as I like to call it. Straight to Chicago, if you want to call it that. I've settled on straight to the city. And the city, if you're listening, you know is Chicago. So it's all Chicago sports. Got a couple things to talk about here today, including a Bears beatdown of the Houston Texans, who, trust me, I just left Houston after 7 years. That is a terrible, terrible football team. Terrible, and they're not going in the right direction. Yeah, they have the quarterback. Deshaun Watson is awesome. Sure, they have a left tackle who they paid a premium for in terms of 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick, plus giving him the highest contract in NFL history for a left tackle. That Houston Texans team is bad, but the Bears went out and we've been talking about this. I've been in messages with some buddies and stuff. It really is better for the Bears long term if they win. But we know the players don't think like that. Mitch Trubisky knows that his time in Chicago could be coming to an end. They don't go into this game thinking, man, if we lose, the Bears could get a better draft pick. Maybe we get inside the top 10 this week with a chance to move up even more. And then, we could be looking at Trey Lance or Zach Wilson or whoever that next quarterback may be. That's not what the players think. They paid to go out there and play football games. And boy, did the Bears do that yesterday. They were dominant from the opening play, David Montgomery's 80-yard touchdown run, to Mitch Trubisky playing his ass off yesterday, to the defense just smothering that offense. I mean, we've seen Deshaun Watson go out there and put up numbers even without Brandon Cooks, even without Will Fuller, who's suspended, even without Kenny Stills, who they cut, even without Randall Cobb, who shockingly is hurt. We've seen Deshaun do things to some NFL defenses that still make you say, wow, like they did that. Not yesterday. He had the 1 touchdown pass to Kiki QT on a scramble. It felt like the Bears were in the backfield every single play, and Watson was having to play his Superman football and try and avoid the rush and get a pass off. And a lot of the times, a good handful of times, he didn't. He was sacked 6 times, lost 52 yards. The Bears also had a sack of A.J. McCarron, who had to come in for a play because Deshaun was hurt when he got hit one time by Akeem Hicks. It was a physical manhandling of the Houston Texans yesterday by the Chicago Bears. And, I went into the game. I just talked about the fact that, lose for the draft pick. They need that quarterback of the future. Quarterback is the only position in the NFL that matters. Plain and simple. If you don't have a quarterback, maybe you can be a 500 team. You know what? Maybe you can even be a playoff team. You're not going to win. You're not going to. In this day and age, this isn't the 2000 Ravens with Trent Dilfer. This isn't the Bears of 2006, 2007 with Rex Grossman and a great defense. Those just don't really exist anymore. I know people will say the 49ers last year. Go look at Jimmy Garoppolo's numbers last year. They were fantastic. And they've been killed by the injuries. Jimmy has not turned out to be as good as people thought, at least this year. So they were a good offensive team. Yeah, they had one of the best defenses in football, and that's never a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have a great defense. Of course you want a great defense. But if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win. And if you do happen to win and get to a Super Bowl or an NFC or AFC championship, the chances of you getting back aren't going to be that great if you don't have the quarterback I'm talking about. But the Houston Texans, they have the quarterback. They have the left tackle in Laramie Tunsil. But if you're going to, I would need somebody, and listen, like I said, I just left Houston Sports Radio down there. I was very critical of this team, the moves they made, the DeAndre Hopkins trade, and that was Bill O'Brien and Jack Easterby. Well, everybody's like, Bill O'Brien's gone now. Well, you know what? Jack Easterby's still there. So it shows you that you can have a quarterback and still not be successful in this league. The Texans are proving that now, but it's really damn hard. It's really damn hard. I mean, Atlanta has Matt Ryan, but Matt Ryan isn't Matt Ryan of 4 years ago. I mean, the Cowboys, look how they would have, if they had Dak this year, a healthy Dak Prescott, they would be running away. Even with their terrible defense, they'd be running away with the NFC East, which is putrid. The quarterback is the key. So, of course, I wanted the Bears to lose to help them get that better draft spot because, if you want to trade up from, say you get 7 and you want to trade up to 4 during the draft, well, it's not going to cost as much as if you're sitting at 13 or 16 or, if you make say the Bears sneak into the playoffs. If they beat the Vikings next week, then the Jags, they have a legitimate shot at the playoffs. It would probably come down to a Week 17 game against the Packers. But you know what? I mean, they'd have a legitimate shot. So maybe you're picking 19th because you get in the playoffs, get your ass kicked in the first round, and then you're going home. And you got the 19th pick. Well, you're not trading up from 19 to 4. That's just not going to happen. So if you're sitting at 7 because, you know what, you lost some games with a bunch of guys that some of them aren't going to be here next year. The Bears are going to have to make some tough decisions. Is Akeem Hicks available? Is Kyle Fuller available? What offensive tackles do you cut both? Do you cut just one and try and replace him in the draft? They have a lot of stuff to work out. But there is some things that you look at and you say, okay, we can see building off that. And that's also something you want to see from this team over these last 4 weeks, which will be now 3 weeks after the Texans game. And one big thing we saw, I don't care if the Houston Texans are the worst run defense in football. You still saw things you liked. Yeah, you could turn and say, well, it's the Texans. You got to do it against, the Steelers or whoever, the Colts and that kind of stuff. Sure, but you got to start somewhere. And showing me that you can do it at least against bad teams. And you know what? The offensive line has settled down a little bit. Mustapher in the middle. I think that's somebody that, maybe they can build on. Maybe that kid he's here. He's ready to go. Maybe he's the center of the future and Cody Whitehair plays right guard with James Daniels coming back next year at left guard. If Mustapher's the guy, if they think he can be that guy based off what they've seen this year, because he's getting some really good run, you have a trio in the middle that you say, okay, let's go. We're pretty young here. Let's do it. James Daniels is a very young player. He's been in the league a couple years. He's still a very young player. When he was drafted, he was very young. Cody Whitehair he's that veteran now. He's going to end up being the leader of this offensive line. And you know what? Maybe he's better off at right guard where he can just kind of be that road grader that just let's play very physical football. And if Mustapher can come in and be that guy in the middle for whoever is playing quarterback next year, then let's go. But you got to find your tackles. Does Charles Leno stay? He can save you about $7 million. What about Bobby Massey? He can save you about $6 million. I don't have the numbers right in front of me exactly what they save. But they can save you some cash. But, getting rid of both of them, unless you see a guy like Alex Bars is a guy that can come in and play right tackle right away, and then you're trusting a rookie. But that's a lot of trust on the outside for, I don't know if it's going to be Nick Foles to start. God, I hope not. But he's definitely going to be here because of the stupid-ass contract that Ryan Pace gave him. So, but we saw the run game yesterday. David Montgomery is an NFL back. I hope people are seeing that. I know a lot of people were torching him. You look back to last year, in the beginning of this year, that dude literally had no room to run. Most of the time where he was supposed to hit the hole, there was a Bears offensive lineman that was pushed into that spot. If it was Charles Leno being pushed down, if it was, Rashad Coward at some point, or even James Daniels, he's got to grow as a player. He's a solid player. I think he can be a good player in this league. They're better with him, but he still has time where the run blocking wasn't very good. So, but we've seen David Montgomery kind of coming along here nicely these last few games. And, it does make a big difference when the quarterback is mobile. That's a difference that the defense has to be concerned about. Nick Foles can't move to save his life. He cannot move whatsoever. Mitch has that ability to move. And the crazy thing is, and I'm one of them, I thought Foles would be able to come in here and at least put up some numbers and keep this team competitive and whatnot. And he came in that Atlanta game and had that great fourth quarter comeback, and it was all fun. But since that, he's just been bad. Yeah, he's played some tough teams, but he's been absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. And going into, unless you got a guy like Tom Brady or Drew Brees or Ben Roethlisberger, who, those guys are Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Tom Brady is the GOAT, greatest of all time. His mechanics are ridiculous. Drew Brees, he's so consistent. He's so precise. And then Big Ben, he can have guys bounce off it. He understands how to manipulate the pocket. Now, yeah, it's getting worse as he's getting older. Dude's almost 38 or whatever it is. But it's still, Nick Foles isn't even, he's not even 3 levels from those guys. Yeah, he's got the Super Bowl, but, come on. Nick Foles has been garbage this year. And the scary thing is, if you had Mitch play in those games, you know what, they probably don't lose 5 in a row. Or 6 in a row, whatever it was. I can't even remember now. It's just it's such a weird situation. But anyways, they have to find the quarterback, at least of the future, these next few years. If it's, depending on where they are, is it Trey Lance from North Dakota State? Is it Zach Wilson from BYU? I don't know if they're going to have a chance to get Zach Wilson. I think once they get into doing some off-season stuff, some more tape work, I think people are going to see Zach Wilson's really, really damn good. And he's going to go high. He's going to go top 5. Trey Lance is the guy that I think could fall a little bit towards 10. But he has so many intriguing traits as a quarterback that, you know what, if you're sitting at 16, yeah, we can make that work. We can get to 10. Or we can get to 9, say if Miami's sitting at 9 with the Houston Texans pick. Hey, Miami, let's jump, let's swap, and we'll give you this and this. And Miami has their quarterback. 2 is their quarterback. So now they're not looking quarterback. They're looking, how can we build around him? And I think we're seeing, you need great depth. You need multiple pieces. You need multiple weapons. So if they can get a first and a second or whatever it is, yeah, it's tough for the Bears to give up that second-round pick or maybe a second-rounder next year if you can talk them into it. And then some other assets as well. Whatever it is, that's where the Bears are going to have to be looking. Or you're sitting where you are and you're trying to figure out, is Mac Jones a first-round quarterback? Is he? To me, he's QB5 all the way. Kyle Trask would be QB6, but he's not a first-round pick in my eyes. He is non-mobile as well. Mac Jones is not mobile. He's not a guy that can move, but he's not a stiff. And I think that's the big difference. So, other things I liked from the game yesterday. Allen Robinson, you have to sign the guy. You have to. He's clearly the best receiver on the team. Hands down, not even close. Nobody near him. Anything. He's the number 1. Do you want to spend big on a number 1 wide receiver? Well, that's a decision the Bears are going to have to make. Because, yeah, I think Anthony Miller, interesting guy. I think he can be a 3 or a really good 4 on a team. Darnell Mooney, I think, can be a very solid 2. He's shown that he has the ability to get deep. He has the ability to catch the ball on a screen and make guys miss. Crossing routes is where he's most dangerous in my mind. That kid can do a lot, and I think Darnell Mooney is going to be a mainstay in Chicago for a long time because he can do a little bit of everything, and that's he's a guy that you'd like to build with. I think that having him and Robinson would be a great 1-2 punch moving forward for the next few years. But again, And the big question here on all these decisions, the next draft, who the next quarterback is, who's starting the season next year, we don't know who's making those decisions. Are Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy going to be back? We have to wait and see. Nobody really knows. There's whispers that they're not going to be back. There's whispers that Pace could stay and Nagy could be out. But are you going to give Pace another head coach and another shot at a quarterback? I can't see that. I really hope, in my mind, they should both be gone. Listen, I like Matt Nagy. He seems like a great guy. That year, 2018, was fun as hell. But when things got bad, nothing got better. Nothing got better offensively. And that's supposed to be his thing. And that's just tough. I mean, you can't keep doing it. This is the NFL. Sitting and wasting years when in lame duck situations is not smart in my mind. In my opinion, if you were thinking about firing a guy, or you say if we start 1-4, we're firing Matt Nagy going into next year, then just fire him now. If you're thinking that about your GM, just fire him now and start going. Let's go. Start the next guy. Like, I thought it was a travesty that the Bears kept John Fox for that one final year, and then it's like, okay, he's got to go. It was clear as day. I think that's where the Bears are at right now. And I get it's a tough decision. You got to pay money for these guys to leave, this and that, and they got contracts. But if you're an NFL franchise, it's not like the coach and the GM count against your salary cap. This isn't where if Khalil Mack is just struggling, he's just bad now. He just is not the same player. You still owe him $60 million and his cap hit next year. You know, his dead cap is $54 million and you owe him $23 next year. Well, you can't cut it. It doesn't make sense to cut him. You hope he bounces back. It's not like that with the GM and the coach. So I think they should wash their hands, get rid of both of them, bring in a new guy, bring in somebody new, somebody fresh that can look at this roster and say, okay, here's what I think we can do here. You know what? I think this guy is probably expendable if it's Akeem Hicks. I don't want to lose Akeem Hicks. He's expensive. And you know what? He's getting a little bit older, a little bit long in the tooth. Maybe the Bears can still get a 4th-round pick for him. Okay, let's do that. We'll make that trade. Help a defense out now. The Bears in 2021 are not going to be good. I think people got to realize that. While this defense is still good, they're not going to be good enough offensively in 2021. And that's why maybe it doesn't make sense to keep Allen Robinson. Maybe you say, you know what, Allen? Thank you. You know, you've been awesome here. It's going to suck. We'll have to end up getting a comp pick next year. And that's just what they're going to have to live on. But how do you... You're not going to turn this around in the year. If you were just terrible this year, say the defense was ravaged by injuries, you were terrible, you went 1-15 and got the first overall pick, and you're getting Trevor Lawrence, then I'm saying, okay, let's figure this out. We're keeping Hicks. We're going to try this with Trevor Lawrence. Robinson's here. We're keeping him. We're signing him. Let's go. That would be different, but that's not what it is. You're not guaranteed Trevor Lawrence. You're not even guaranteed Trey Lance, who's number 4 on my mind. So that's where I look at the Bears and I say it's time to clean house. It's time to get rid of Ryan Pace. It's time to get rid of Matt Nagy and his coaching staff. Chuck Pagano, you're going too. I'm going to open this up to everybody. I'm going to say, here's what we got. You look at the coaches available. Eric Bieniemy, one of the top candidates. Maybe my favorite, Brian Daboll. Arthur Smith at Tennessee. Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator in San Francisco, is going to be one. I mean, there's plenty of guys out there that are candidates. 2 names that may be in there are Jim Harbaugh from Michigan, Pat Fitzgerald from Northwestern. I don't see either happening. It's kind of seeming like Jim's going to stay at Michigan. Maybe even get an extension, which wouldn't shock me. And if you're Pat Fitzgerald, don't leave Northwestern. I guess this fits into Chicago. Don't leave Northwestern, man. You're a legend there. You are a legend at Northwestern. You're building solid football teams. Yeah, it's going to be hard. You're not probably ever going to win a national title. But you're building solid football teams, and you're going to make, I don't know if he makes $4 million, $5 million, whatever he makes. Make that until you're ready to retire. I get the NFL is the NFL, and you want to go win a Super Bowl. But it's not guaranteed. What happens if you go 3-13, 5-11, 5-11, and they're just like, all right, this didn't work. See you, Pat. And then you're gone. And now you're like, well, damn, now I got to go back to college. I'm not going to get another NFL job after that. Now I got to go back to college. Well, Northwestern's gone. That job's gone because somebody came in and is making the money in the Big Ten in one of the best football conferences. And now he's making the $5 million. No, if you're Pat Fitzgerald, you stay at Northwestern. You ride that out. It's different for Jim Harbaugh and Pat Fitzgerald. Pat Fitzgerald, if he puts together a winning team, which he did this year, playing in the Big Ten Championship, if he does that every few years, he's fine. He's golden. And that's just the difference of expectations. Michigan, struggling. Obviously, this year is just awful. This year was garbage for Michigan. Trust me, I'm a Michigan fan. It's garbage. Harbaugh's been solid, but he's never beat Ohio State. The expectations at Michigan are different. I don't care who you are. Because Jim Harbaugh is Pat Fitzgerald at Michigan. They're the same guy in those programs. Legends. Everybody's like, Jim Harbaugh, he's the guy for Michigan. And I said that too. And he's had good success. But you haven't beat Ohio State. You lost to Michigan State too many times. You'd never played in a Big Ten championship. You never even sniffed the playoff. And it's not like he hasn't recruited. He's put together great recruiting classes. They're not developing. And they're not developing quarterbacks. It's been all transfers until this year. And Joe Milton, who I thought was the answer finally, he was putrid. Dude can throw the ball. He's a freaking cannon. He's not consistent at all and just throws the ball to the other team. And hell, McNamara has actually looked pretty decent when he's played. But if you're Pat Fitzgerald, you don't leave Northwestern. Jim Harbaugh could be forced out at Michigan. Maybe he just comes in on the final year of his deal and we say, let's see what happens. You have a good year. You beat Ohio State. Yeah, we'll let's do that extension. Let's go. But it's a crazy year, and the Bears, in my opinion, have to make the changes. I know there's a lot of teams that are going to be looking for GMs and head coach, but that can't scare you away. You have to try and make the moves. You have to say, we're the Chicago Bears, one of the most storied franchises in NFL history. We got some defense. We got some players on offense. We just need that quarterback. And the GM / president, I would love to see a bigger front office. Ted Phillips, whatever. I don't care about Ted Phillips. I would love to see somebody come in and be the president or vice president of football operations, and then have a GM under him, and then the head coach. That's what I would love to see. I don't know if they'll do that. I doubt they'll do that. But the guy I would like to see, even if he's VP of football operations and GM, I'd like to see Rick Smith. Was with the Texans, left because of his wife's illness, breast cancer, I believe, and has not gotten back into football since. He says he's ready now. I think he would be the perfect fit for the Chicago Bears. Remember, he is the guy that made the move up to get Deshaun Watson. Bill O'Brien did not want to make that move. They jumped from, 26-ish all the way up to 12, I think it was, or 13. I can't remember the exact number. But they jumped up to get Deshaun there. And he gave up a first-round pick to get him. And Bill O'Brien was against it. But Rick Smith was the GM. He made the final decision, and he traded everything to get Deshaun Watson. And it was clearly the right decision. I would love to see Rick Smith in Chicago as the GM or a higher title. And I'd love to see Brian Daboll in Chicago. And then and then you let him decide. How do you run this defense? Who do you want to come in? At this point, I don't care. You don't got to stay 3-4. You don't got to be 4. Like, just give me the best defense you can give me. Don't pigeonhole yourself. If you think you have a guy that comes in and maybe his base is a 4-3 that plays a lot of hybrid, then let's go. Khalil Mack could play anywhere. Robert Quinn's been a disaster. They need to try to find something better for him. You're going to get Eddie Goldman back. You still got some young players, Bilal Nichols. Roquan Smith's turning into a star. Eddie Jackson needs to step his game up. Kyle Fuller, if he's there, is still a damn good cornerback. Jalen Johnson, damn good-looking rookie corner. I think Tayshaun Gibson has been fine in the back end with Eddie Jackson. I would like to see him brought back on a cheap deal. So a lot of decisions for this Bears team to make over the next month. And I hope that the McCaskies think like I do and say, I don't want to go into a season with a lame duck coach and GM. It just doesn't make sense. You're just setting the franchise back another year. And you can't let them make the quarterback decision. If you at all considering firing these guys, then you make the move. You make the move. It's not a personal decision. This is a outlook for your team, your organization. Lame duck situations hardly ever work out. And that's the big difference. Lame duck situations hardly ever work out. We know Mitch isn't going to be back next year. At least I think. It would be crazy if he were. I think that it would be crazy if Nick Foles is just guaranteed the starting job. If you don't bring in anybody to compete with him, even if it's a rookie. I don't care. I'm one of the guys that I think if you think a rookie is ready, start him. If you think he's close, you think you go through training camp and it is close, that the rookie is playing with Nick Foles in terms of, snap for snap, and you're like, whoa, this kid, okay, he's right there with him. It's close. You go to the young kid and you start the process. If you're worried about the quarterback's psyche, and I took this from Sean Salisbury. He's the guy I listen to most when it comes to quarterbacks in terms of just the overall thought process, not who I like. And I do my own work on that. But if you're worried about a quarterback's psyche, even before the draft, and you think, man, if we start him too early and he's bad, he's going to tank on us and we'll never get him back, then you don't draft that guy. If you think that about Zach Wilson, say, or Trey Lance, or any of these guys, hell, even Trevor Lawrence, which that's not the case, but if you think that about any of these guys, you don't draft them. I want somebody who wants to compete. He's not afraid of failure early in his career. Peyton Manning wasn't afraid of failure. That dude threw like 28 touchdowns, or 28 interceptions, or 30 interceptions, whatever it was his rookie year. But what did he do? He learned from it. He worked his ass off to say, okay, I'm going to learn from each interception. What did I do wrong here? What did I do wrong here? What did I miss? Who's the guy that was open that I should have thrown the ball to? Where was he in my read, in my progressions? Where was he, where was my hot route? Where was this? Where was my outlet? All these things he took and he learned from. That's what I need a quarterback to do. Not be afraid of failure. There was times when it felt like Mitch was afraid of failure. And then when something went wrong, it snowballed. Because when he normally starts out a game good, it normally can stay pretty good. Yeah, he might have a mistake. You know what? Every quarterback has a mistake. That's one thing I am tired of with the whole Twitterverse and having all this available. Every single throw is scrutinized. Yes, quarterbacks are going to miss. It's going to happen. Trevor Lawrence is going to miss. We've seen him miss. We've seen Tom Brady, the GOAT, Peyton Manning, a top 5 quarterback of all time. Dan Marino, in my opinion, a top 5 quarterback of all time. Joe Montana, the second best quarterback of all time. They've all missed. They miss wide open throws. They let one go too high. They throw one in the dirt. We see Aaron Rodgers throw stuff in the dirt all the time. He's still the best. Tom Brady's still the best, despite that. So we got to get over the fact of quarterbacks missing on certain throws. Yeah, it sucks. I'd love to have the perfect quarterback, a guy that never missed, that completed 97% of his passes. But you also got to have the receivers to catch the ball. So while you want to scrutinize the quarterbacks and every player, guys are going to have off plays. So that just frustrates me when it comes to the overall just Twitterverse of armchair scouting and stuff. And I do it too in terms of I like to look back at games and be like, okay, what did David Montgomery do so well? What did the offensive line do to create holes so well against the Texans yesterday? I like to do that stuff. But you can't just criticize every single little thing that goes wrong. You can say, okay, yeah, he should have hit that throw, but did he come back and hit the next one? 2nd and 8, you have, if you're Mitch, you have Allen Robinson open at 12 yards, and you miss him. You throw a ball a little bit out in front of him. There was one where Mitch did. He threw it a little bit out too far in front of Robinson, who was open for a first down. And then what did he do the next play? Now, in this situation, I don't remember what the next play was. I don't know if that was 3rd down and whatnot. But if that happened on 2nd down, did you come back on 3rd down and have that short memory and get out there and throw the dart to get the first down? Those are the kind of guys I want. Because, again, every quarterback is going to miss. The greatest left tackle is going to give up a sack every once in a great while. These guys aren't perfect. I know a lot of us expect them to be, but they're not perfect. So we just have to see these guys build on and learn from their mistakes and get better. And I say that about the rosters too. Okay, Trubisky didn't work out. Yes, it sucks. It sucks that Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were in that draft and taken after him. But you know what? I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm going to look forward and say, okay, where do the Bears go next at quarterback? Clearly Trubisky isn't the answer. Fine. Clearly Foles isn't the answer. Now, Ryan Pace was a dumbass and gave him a 20-plus guaranteed in money, so he's stuck there. But he's my backup. You know what? If he's got to start a few games here to start the season before the rookie's ready, fine. If I'm trading for Sam Darnold, then let's go. He's starting. I'm not messing around with Nick Foles. It's Sam Darnold. We're going to see what we got. You got to take another bite at the apple. Now, where I don't think that Ryan Pace should get that bite. I don't think Matt Nagy should get that bite to have another quarterback. He had his chances with 2 different quarterbacks, and they failed miserably. But as an organization, you have to take another shot. I think you should be drafting quarterbacks every 2 years at minimum. Now, if you're a team like the Bears, you can't keep trading future assets just for this draft. Like this year, they traded their 4th for Nick Foles. They've traded, in past years, they traded a 2nd to get up and get Anthony Miller, or they traded this to get up and get this guy. And we've seen it year after year with Ryan Pace. But the fact of the matter is, I think you should take a quarterback every other year at worst. Even if you hit on a guy. Even if you say the Bears get Zach Wilson and you have Nick Foles for this year, and I don't know if he's around next year too, just because of the money and whatnot. But next year, in the 5th round or the 6th round, I'm looking at a quarterback and I'm just taking him. I'm going to find the guy that I like, and I'm going to draft him. And I'm going to try and develop him. And if I can develop him into something that looks good, maybe he's my backup for 10 years. Maybe he's a guy that I can trade and get something for him. And then I'm doing it again in 2 years. That's just, you got to keep taking bites at the apple because, like I started this podcast off with, quarterback is the most important position in football. If you don't have a quarterback, your chances to win are almost zero. And when I say win, I mean a Super Bowl. Because in the end, that's all that matters. You got to get the quarterback. Now, you got to make decisions around them that are sound. But if you don't have the quarterback, you have zero shot. And if you don't have a quarterback and you're not making sound decisions, then you're the New York Jets. The New York Jets, I thought, drafted a pretty damn good quarterback in Sam Darnold. They've done zero to help him. Don't tell me about Le'Veon Bell. That was a dumb decision. They finally got Mekhi Becton, who's a monster at left tackle. But it's too late. Now Sam's going to go somewhere else and have a chance to rewrite his NFL history. He's going to have a chance to rewrite his NFL story. Or at least go to a new chapter and say, okay, can I be Ryan Tannehill? Now, he hasn't been in the league as long as Tannehill was. I mean, the Dolphins gave Tannehill an extension. But can he be a guy that goes somewhere else and turns into a damn good quarterback? Yeah, I think Sam Darnold can. And if the Bears decided to make that move, whoever's making that decision, I wouldn't hate him for it. And then you use your draft assets to, draft a left tackle and maybe a wide receiver, depending on what you do with Allen Robinson. So there's a lot of different ways the Bears could go at quarterback. But they have to take another shot, plain and simple, because things haven't worked out. Well, this ended up just being a lot of Bears talk, a lot of future talk, a lot of talk in general about the Bears. Real quick, I'll spend 2-3 minutes on this. It's preseason. The Bulls have now played 2 games against the Houston Rockets, won one, lost one. Patrick Williams, he's looked good. The rookie out of Florida State. We've seen some really interesting things from him. I think that I just tried to type in my password, and I literally typed interesting as I was writing it. He's looked good. He shows his athleticism. He shows his ability to defend every spot on the floor. Switching is not going to be a problem with him when it comes to defense. Offensively, he can get to his shot. He's shown us through 2 preseason games. Again, these are just preseason. And we got to wait and see, as this team develops with Billy Donovan. People were freaking out after game 1. I'm like, first of all, it's a preseason. Second of all, it's Billy Donovan's first game. Third, they've had basically 0 practice time. I mean, Zach LaVine looks good. Kobe White looks good. Like I said, Williams looks good. The guy I'm concerned about, the one concern I have about this team, of course, Laurie, I don't know, is he going to shoot well enough? Okay, I'll just say 2 guys, Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. I mean, Carter Jr. I think he's 0 for 10 or 0 for 11 from 3 in 2 games. Not that Markkanen, 1 of 10 last night in their preseason game. I just thought those 2 guys were going to be so much better. But what's even more frustrating about it is we're in a guard league right now. Yeah, there's big guys that make a difference, but we're in a guard league. Big guys aren't all the rage, I guess you'd like to say. I mean, this is a guard-heavy league, and I would have loved to got LaMelo Ball. I mean, I don't know if anybody saw his first game. I watched some of that. The dude's a magician with the basketball. He's a magician. He is going to be really good. Telling you now, he's going to be the best player from this draft. He will be the best player from this draft. But Bulls, we'll see how it starts. Again, we got to give Billy Donovan time. We got to give Arturas Karnisovas some time. Mark Eversley some time. We got to give these guys time to build this roster out. And you know what? It may look very different heading into next season. Maybe they trade away Carter. Maybe they trade away Markkanen. We'll see what happens, but I think this team could look very different. Maybe they trade away Levine. I don't know. But this is Karnisovas' deal now. No more Garpax, and that's the most important thing. They brought in somebody new to make the decisions because Garpax, John Paxson, Gar Forman were not working out. They were there way too long. Way too long. They made the decision to rework that entire organization, gave Arturas the keys, brought in Mark Eversley, brought in Billy Donovan. I would love to see the Bears do something very similar. That's what I would like to see. So I'm willing to give the Bulls in this new front office time. Billy Donovan's a guy that will work these kids to death to get them better. We saw what he just did last year with Oklahoma City. I'm not saying they're going to be that. They're not going to take a good Bucks team or a good Miami Heat team to 7 in the playoffs. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But they will get better. Kobe White will get better. Zach LaVine will get better. These young guys will get better. So we just got to give it time. This is a new regime. This is a new time for the Chicago Bulls. We have to give it time. Don't freak out after one preseason game. That's just stupid. It's just stupid. So that's it for the Bulls. We'll continue this as the season gets going. I think it kicks off next week. I think they have 1 or 2 more preseason games, and then we'll get into that. White Sox have not made a move since Adam Eaton, and the Cubs have had nothing change. I've done Kyle Schwarber and everything, so nothing going on with those. And the Blackhawks season should be starting here sometime soon. So we'll get into those 3 as things happen. Baseball, we're still waiting for moves. Will Chris Bryant be traded? Does Liam Hendricks to the White Sox? Well, let's kind of wait and see. But that'll do it for Straight to the City. Another spinoff. I'm going to have all these spinoffs. I'm going to name them something different. You know, if something big happens with the Cubs, be straight to the Cubs. Straight to the Sox. Straight to the Hawks. Straight to the Bulls. Straight to the Bears. But this was going to kind of cover the Bulls and the Bears. So when I do that, or, you know, when things really get going, we'll talk about all of them. And we'll kind of shorten everything down. It's Straight to the City. And the National, when I talk everything national, which I may do one tomorrow, it's straight to the point. And that's straight to the point of everything. So I'm Adam Sager. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at Adam G. Sager. Instagram at Adam G. Sager. If you want to email the show any questions or anything, it's straight, the number 2, the point pod at gmail.com. So thanks for listening. I will put out another one very, very soon. All right, thanks, guys.